Greetings from Cheating Story Lab. Please comment with your location. I once held the belief that generosity would reciprocate, that selfless acts from the heart would eventually yield meaningful returns. However, the ones you consider closest can occasionally plan to sabotage what you cherish most, and the sole recompense for kindness may be the disheartening truth that transforms everything irrevocably. I am Robert, aged 52. The greater part of my adult life has been dedicated to constructing a prosperous business, working tirelessly for 16 hours a day and saving every spare cent. My spouse passed away when my son Kevin was merely 12, leaving only the two of us for over a decade. Now 26, I thought I had raised Kevin well. He completed his college education, earned an engineering degree, and secured a stable position at a tech firm. When he informed me of his engagement to Melissa, I felt elated. At last, my son was establishing stability, and I was looking forward to restoring the family I had always envisioned. Melissa appeared ideal for Kevin. She was 24 and worked as a marketing coordinator, constantly exhibiting respect and warmth towards me. She attended Sunday dinners, assisted with chores, and even presented small gifts during holidays. Addressing me affectionately as Dad Robert from the get-go brought immense joy to my heart. Following the loss of my wife, welcoming another female figure into my life felt like an undeserving blessing. When Kevin proposed in the spring, they burst with excitement and wedding plans. They envisioned a unique, memorable event, but their joint earnings barely covered their dream wedding expenses. They displayed pictures of potential venues, discussed a guest list of 150 people, the cherished photographer, and the band that would make their reception remarkable. The total cost was approximately $45,000, which nearly exhausted their savings and required additional borrowing. I didn't waver for even a moment. I expressed my wish to cover the entire wedding costs as a gift for them. For years, I'd saved money with no specific goal, but when my son reacted joyously at my proposal, it validated every cent earned. Melissa even shed tears of joy and embraced me tightly. Their heartfelt gratitude and genuine happiness made me feel like the most proud father. The wedding planning took approximately 8 months. I participated due to funding it, yet avoided being overly dominating. I attended tastings with them, aided in flower selection, and provided suggestions for the music. Melissa frequently shared updates with me via texts, sending pictures of dress options and seeking my thoughts on centerpieces. Although Kevin appeared slightly overwhelmed by the details, Melissa meticulously managed everything. She was the type who created spreadsheets for everything and had contingency plans for her contingency plans. Approximately 2 months before the wedding, Melissa's father suffered a heart attack, requiring surgery and a prolonged recovery period. Originally, her parents were planning to contribute about $8,000 towards the wedding expenses. However, their savings were now depleted due to medical bills. Upon learning this during dinner, Melissa held back tears as she discussed possibly reducing costs by trimming the guest list or finding a less expensive venue. Seeing her distress, I decided to help and increased my contribution to compensate for their financial shortfall, pushing the total cost up to around $53,000. The gratitude and relief on their faces made this feel like one of my wisest investments ever. Melissa once again expressed her gratitude, calling me the most generous man she had ever known, and commenting that Kevin was fortunate to have me as a father. The wedding was scheduled for early October on a Saturday. All reservations were made, deposits paid, and final preparations were in progress. I had requested a week off work to assist with last-minute tasks and to cherish this unique moment with my son and his bride-to-be. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for Friday evening, and I intended to deliver a speech expressing my pride in Kevin and my joy at welcoming Melissa into our family. 2 days before the ceremony, I visited the venue to discuss some last-minute details with the florist. The location was stunning, a refurbished Victorian mansion featuring gardens and a ballroom resembling a fairy tale setting. While waiting for the wedding coordinator in the main corridor, I heard voices emanating from the bridal suite upstairs. Sound can travel oddly in old buildings, and on this occasion, it led me to recognize Melissa's voice first. She was conversing with someone, and her tone differed markedly from what I had previously heard. Colder, sharper, almost analytical. Then I heard a voice, unmistakably not Kevin's, causing me to inch towards the foot of the staircase for a clearer listen. Melissa was discussing her role and how effectively she was pulling off the innocent future daughter-in-law act, making the old man believe it entirely. The man chuckled and commented on her acting prowess surpassing many in Hollywood. Then, Melissa mentioned something that chilled me to the bone. Once married and legally a family member, she intended to persuade him to revise his will. It was unnecessary for Kevin to know about this until it held no relevance. The man questioned if she was certain Kevin wouldn't uncover her plans, and Melissa laughed in a way that bore no resemblance to the loving, compassionate person I believed her to be. She stated that Kevin was overly trusting and naive enough not to suspect anything, as she had meticulously orchestrated the entire scheme for more than a year. She'd chosen him deliberately due to his father's construction enterprise and the wealth he had accumulated throughout the years. Hearing this left me feeling as if I'd been hit in the stomach. It transpired that this girl whom I had nurtured like a daughter, whom I had provided over $50,000, and who I had welcomed into my family and heart, had been deceiving me from the start with an intricate scam. However, matters took a turn for the worse. The voice I heard belonged to someone named Derek, who was revealed to be Melissa's former partner. It emerged that they had never parted ways. Their stratagem involved Melissa marrying Kevin, gaining access to our finances, and eventually abandoning him for Derek once she acquired what she sought. Derek had been guiding her on what to say, how to act, and even assisting her in researching my business to ascertain the potential amount of money at stake. Melissa detailed her strategy to persuade Kevin into proposing a business partnership with me, which would grant her access to my financial records for future schemes. She found humor in how I boosted my investment when her father fell ill, claiming it demonstrated the simplicity of swindling vulnerable elderly men seeking companionship. For nearly 10 additional minutes, I remained, silently hearing them discuss their plot to ruin my son's life and plunder my hard-earned achievements. They spoke about Kevin as if he were a target in a scam, ignoring his genuine emotions for this woman. Melissa explained in depth her plan to feign happiness during the first couple of years of marriage, accumulate information, and eventually create issues leading to a divorce, where she'd seize half of everything. As soon as I heard noises upstairs, I hurriedly departed from the location and remained seated in my vehicle for nearly an hour, attempting to wrap my mind around the revelation. My hands trembled and I felt nauseous. For over a year, this woman had been living a deception, and her convincing act had left me clueless. She'd managed to deceive Kevin completely, and I was no exception. Yet the most distressing aspect was that in 2 days, my son was due to marry someone who intended to ruin his life, and he remained oblivious. The remainder of that day was spent pondering over what action to take next. I could disclose to Kevin what I had heard covertly, but I knew he wouldn't be inclined to believe me. He was deeply smitten by Melissa, and her flawless performance made him believe I was either mistaken or envious or attempting to undermine his happiness. I could attempt to gather evidence, but the wedding was imminent within 48 hours. I might terminate the entire arrangement, yet that would bring distress upon Kevin and incur substantial penalties that won't remedy the actual issue. I recognized that Melissa had committed a significant blunder. Her greed overtook caution, leading her to believe that she could scheme against my family while I was unaware. However, I hadn't risen to business prominence through naivety, and I wouldn't allow a swindler to jeopardize my son's life without resistance. Throughout Friday, I made calls and set actions in motion. I contacted my attorney, accountant, and a private investigator I'd previously employed for professional purposes. By Friday night, I had gathered all the resources necessary to demolish Melissa's plan and reveal her true intentions. The rehearsal dinner proceeded as scheduled. Melissa performed her role flawlessly, delivering an emotional speech about her gratitude to join our family and how much my generosity meant to her. In her gaze, she discussed the bond of trust and affection that had flourished between us. If not for hearing her genuine voice just 2 days prior, I might have been genuinely touched by her act on a Saturday morning. The scene was abuzz with preparations for the ceremony, the venue tastefully adorned, guests trickling in, and Kevin appeared happier than ever before. Melissa was getting her hair and makeup done, embodying the role of the radiant bride flawlessly. Just about an hour before the ceremony began, I asked Kevin if I could talk to him alone. We retired to a small room adjacent to the main hall, where I revealed a secret to him. I retrieved my phone and played him the recording I'd made 2 days ago, sneaked back to the venue with a compact digital recorder, and managed to preserve nearly 20 minutes of Melissa and Derek plotting their scheme meticulously. Kevin's countenance shifted through roughly half a dozen different emotions as he heard the woman he adored label him as both overly trusting and foolish, while she outlined her intention to pilfer everything our hard-earned family assets. Upon completion of the recording, Kevin fixed his gaze on me for an extended period. Quietly, he asked, "Since when did you know?" I divulged all the details, including my decision to thwart this wedding ever since I overheard that particular conversation. I presented him with the financial records my accountant had compiled, demonstrating that every dollar Melissa claimed her family contributed was in fact drawn from Kevin's accounts. I also disclosed the findings of the background check run by my investigator, revealing that Derek and Melissa had been cohabiting during her entire engagement to Kevin. Kevin plunged into a chair heavily, burying his face in his hands. For a while, it seemed he might crumble entirely. Then he gazed at me with an unusual mix of pain, wrath, and resolve, echoing his mother's fury in its intensity when she was confronted by something truly vexing. He implored, "Father, I urge you to trust my judgment. I intend to manage this situation as I see fit, and I require your compliance regardless of the subsequent events." What transpired next was arguably the most heart-wrenching scene I've ever beheld. He strode into the central hall where 150 guests eagerly awaited the ceremony. Melissa stood at the altar in her dazzling white gown, glowing with anticipation and joy. He marched towards the microphone positioned for vows, requesting everyone's focus. He began by expressing gratitude to all present for attending what should have been the most joyous day of his life. Then he disclosed that he had recently uncovered information that altered everything, and he believed it prudent to reveal the truth before they witnessed a union built on falsehoods. Kevin played the recording in front of the entire wedding gathering, including guests, causing an eerie silence to fall upon the room as Melissa's voice echoed, detailing her intention to deceive and plunder our family. Upon its conclusion, Kevin fixed his gaze on Melissa, who appeared pale and on the verge of fainting. He said, "Melissa, I trust Derek was worth it because you've just forfeited everything." Addressing the crowd next, he declared that the wedding was off but invited everyone to remain for what he now referred to as a commemoration of narrow escapes and family solidarity. Melissa attempted to speak up, trying to explain it as a misinterpretation or the recording being fabricated. But Kevin raised his hand and ordered her to depart from the venue within 5 minutes before summoning security. Derek, disguised amidst the crowd, attempted to near Kevin, but my construction crew members, present as guests, conveyed it was ill-advised. The climax was witnessing Melissa comprehend her intricate plan had just crumbled in her presence before everyone acquainted with her. Her friends, kinfolk, Kevin's companions, and work colleagues all overheard the truth about her identity and her intentions. There was no way to rephrase, no excuses to provide, no possibility to rescue her standing or her strategy. Following Melissa and Derek's departure, Kevin spoke to me saying, "Dad, I'm sorry I nearly let her wreck our family." I assured him there was no need for apologies, that she'd engaged in a game neither of us could have foreseen. Incredibly, what seemed like an upsetting day evolved into one of the best gatherings I've ever attended. Friends and family gathered around Kevin, displaying immense support, as everyone appeared genuinely relieved that he managed to avoid a disastrous marriage. The music played on, the food remained delightful, and people continued to approach Kevin to express their pride in his courage. Approximately 6 months later, Kevin encountered Emma, a nurse from the hospital where Melissa's father supposedly underwent heart surgery. It was revealed that the heart attack story was fabricated by Melissa, utilizing common medical emergencies as tools for emotional manipulation. Emma is authentic, compassionate, and genuinely appreciates Kevin for who he is rather than what she perceives to gain from him. As for Melissa and Derek, it was discovered through a private investigator that they had orchestrated similar scams on at least 3 other men within the past 5 years. Ensured the correct authorities received the information, and subsequently learned that they were indicted for fraud in various jurisdictions. Reflecting now, I'm thankful Melissa became careless and allowed me to overhear her true intentions. Had she been more cautious, she might have actually ruined Kevin's life and stolen everything our family had constructed. Instead, she unknowingly bestowed the most valuable gift truth about her real identity before it was too late for intervention. The $53,000 intended for their wedding, I predominantly utilized to fund a 3-week European trip for their actual wedding 18 months later. It proved to be everything a wedding should: sincere, delightful, and grounded in genuine love rather than intricate deceptions. Occasionally, I ponder on how convincing Melissa was, how completely she managed to deceive both Kevin and me. Reminder that people may not always present their true selves, and sometimes the kindest action towards loved ones is shielding them from their own trusting disposition. Primarily, I'm thankful that my family emerged more united than before, and that Kevin discovered someone who appreciates him sincerely.